When we first did this at the height of COVID, we had no choices. I don't know if it was ever good for us in the first place.
That's the owner of a wine bar in New York City, and he's talking about dining al fresco, an Italian term that means to eat in the open air. In New York City's case, that open air in many recent cases has been shared with that of an open city street, with diesel fumes and cologne wafting off the pavement over to a makeshift shed where you're enjoying Clams Casino on the side of the road.
The last 4 years have been pretty tough. And I think that we've done a great job considering how tough it was.
You may recall that a few years ago, there was a big pandemic that made lots of people sick, killed millions, and turned toilet paper into a Beanie Baby-like hot commodity. With bans on indoor dining set in March of 2020 of New York, a few months later in June, Fun City rolled out official guidance on a temporary program called Open Restaurants that expanded outdoor seating on sidewalks, curb lanes, backyards, patios, plazas, and streets. So, instead of dining inside of a typical New York City restaurant with 9 seats, you could dine outside of that very same restaurant in one of 9 folding chairs carted over straight from IKEA. Now, New York has long had rules that allowed for some type of sidewalk dining, but open restaurants that sprawled seats into the streets lent the city a semblance of the cafe society enjoyed by bustling European locales, and allowed restaurants adhering to indoor capacity restrictions at the time to continue serving customers who didn't want to sit inside next to a mannequin. According to city data that the Associated Press checked out, around 13,000 places took advantage of this temporary program. Though in spite of some humble renderings over what ideal roadway or sidewalk seating could look like, outdoor dining spaces soon took on a life of their own. Some standing up as part-time plywood monuments to entrepreneurial ingenuity, some emerging as your own private snow globe, and some becoming damn near permanent buildings themselves, outfitted with everything from planters, lights, heaters, and decor that turned a humble wood box on the side of the street into, well, an indoor-outdoor restaurant. But 4 years later, with pandemic-era restrictions carted away like a dirty plate, some of these zhuzhed-up lemonade stands have been left in disrepair, becoming everything from eyesore hangouts for delivery boys to what Inside Edition once called, quote, a rat's paradise. And thus, the city's now serving up a digestif that you might need to drink under a ceiling, as, in the words of Timothée Chalamet himself, the times they are a-changin'.
New York City is changing their laws for outdoor dining and requiring participants to start with a new set of laws that will both have fees, extra requirements, and significantly also have to take their outdoor setups down every single year.
Yeah, there's a new program that's called Dining Out NYC, and the deadline to get in was Saturday the 3rd. It still allows for roadway and sidewalk cafes, but they now must adhere to uniform design standards. Restaurants also have to pay licensing and square footage fees, and notably, the roadway cafe operating season doesn't run year-round, meaning these things have to be taken down from late November through March.
It's sad that we have to shut this down because it's an extension of our business. Like, with this, we can have more people to come and sit and enjoy and live the experience of the coffee shop.
That's the co-owner of a cafe in Brooklyn contending with the scope of these new changes. Because if you didn't apply to get into this new program, you've got to tear down your current setup.
We applied and we want to do it because, as I say, it's a good thing for our business. But honestly, we would prefer just to keep this one instead of redo the whole thing from the beginning.
For restaurants that aren't in this new program and don't tear down their street restaurants, they'll first face a $500 fine and then subsequent $1,000 fines until they're removed. The mayor thinks these new requirements will help cut down on rat magnets and ultimately usher in a new era of permanent outdoor dining. Though one major sticking point for some of these restaurants is that they have to take down these setups for the winter. And as fun as it may be for you and I to enjoy a pepper steak next to a parking spot in February, the Associated Press reports that out of the nearly 2,600 restaurants who have applied for this new program, only around half of these places will end up embracing the humble roadway cafe.
We will try the first year and see how it goes, but if it is more expensive to search the thing and build the, pay for all of this, besides, compared to the money we will get in sales or the customers, we will just shut it down and we will keep just this small space and that's it.
With less than a quarter of the 13,000 restaurants that embraced outdoor dining during the pandemic choosing to apply for this new outdoor seating program, it's too early to say what next year's outdoor dining scene in New York will look like. Though our cafe owner here believes that many of these changes are all about the city seeing some green come spring.
So I believe it's just about the money. Honestly, just building this was expensive, way expensive.
Back in the East Village, overseeing the demolition of his outdoor dining setup, that guy with the wine bar seems ready to run the dishwasher on this whole damn thing.
When people say, the end of an era, I think it's the end of a very bad era, a uniquely awful era for restaurants in New York.
It may be a bad era for restaurants, but it's a great era for content, especially if you subscribe to @TheNewsRefresh on YouTube, where we put out new weird and interesting news videos like these each and every day. My name is Greg Ott, and leave us a comment to let us know what you think of this video. In this recent piece about scientists building robot beetles to figure out how the insects fly, Heroy Gonzalez 3702 just said, awesome. Awesome.